All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Veteran Value. And today's topic is Watcher Six. I really think about this topic a lot because, when you're in the military, you're building those strong networks. You're really building that camaraderie, and you're looking for folks to watch your flanks and your backside, right? For things that pop up that you don't see, or at least make you aware of things that are happening, right? And within companies, you also need those strong networks for career success. And this topic has come up quite a few times. So let's dive right in. Our approach, we go through the definition. And this one, I think, is going to be pretty cool in the fact that, we'll talk about a little bit about the politics. Again, we'll keep it on the positive side, not diving into the negative. But once you understand really a lot of the components of that, you can better watch your six and you can create kind of an aura around you that's positive, that really is leveraging, right? There's always a constraint of resources, but it also exemplifies the leadership skills that you've earned and used, right, in your experience. And obviously we always want to have you folks take away some great things. Again, I always think veterans bring so much to the table. So let's jump right in. Definition. I found this one online on the Google dictionary, and really, I won't read it verbatim. You guys can read it, but it is your surrounding. And the reason why this one comes up a lot in conversations is that either, in the business world, you're afraid, there's not really those relationships. It's not forged in training. It's not forged in missions. It's not forged overseas in combat, right? So it's really hard to duplicate some of those things in context of the business world and really the concept of someone really having your six, right? In the military, it means really someone having your and watching your back, right? And you trusting that the fact that they have it. But I will say that, there's a lot of challenges again in the business world. You're taking on things in the market for your business, the corporation, things that haven't been done before. And, even though there's context and there's foundations that you can build off of, again, there's definitely positives and opportunities that you can build these supportive networks and navigate through challenges and seize opportunities. So again, really it's important that folks understand, how to build these relationships and in what context. And what I'll also put in is it doesn't have to be, blood oaths, right? That you're going to go to the grave with. While those are good, oftentimes in business, I've found that folks are willing to help if you're clear and define what it is that you have. And it's even more so when you make it, time bound and short, like someone doesn't have to get into that responsibility, over time. What you'll find out is you'll do it so many times that it just becomes second nature and you kind of do just gravitate towards having each other's back. And that's really the reason why we ask the question, well, why do we care? Again, everyone wants to win and everyone wants to get their stuff in the winner's circle, right? But with limited time, resources, limited support, we all know that not everyone actually wins, right? And if you're on the outside, you can feel isolated, overwhelmed. And the reality is that some folks have experienced being in a group that's laid off or on the chopping block. And it's not always within your control. And one of the things that I always share with folks is you do want to make an effort to control and manage the things that you can, while at the same time, if you've done that, you can feel whole about whatever happens and the things that are out of your control, you'll have peace of mind about. But one I think I like slide that I found, and again, I always try to put the resources so that you can find the context afterward, is the fact that there's going to be politics in the office. And to what level, I think that there'll be varying degrees. But again, folks will get promoted when others may not think that they've got all the skills, right? Some people have felt that politics may have broken or dismantled their careers. You do see, groups forming, and there's some groups that have the influence of making those decisions. And it's not only just, pockets, it's at different levels. Well, sometimes people don't feel like they're invited or a part of some of the leadership decisions and some of the investments that are being on. So that's really the reason why we care, is because when we think of politics, it is oftentimes lumped into this category where we really want to have a seat at the table. We really want to have influence. And at the end of the day, we think that we can make things happen. And, for veterans, I do think that that's a component that's not always there for other folks that are politicking, right? They may think that they have the answer, but they may have never done it or have been challenged to the degree that, that commitment and fortitude needs to be brought forward. So again, I do think that veterans bring a different aspect of it, to what I consider politics, and the fact that a lot of times veterans will be the first not to do any politicking, right? So the other side is true too. This question of why do we care, and it should be actually be why you should care, because if you're left out or you're not in one of these circles, then you likely could get blindsided. And again, that's the cover your six part, right? And I do like this one, this slide, because it happens more than we like and sometimes more than we think, right? And when I look at this slide again, trying to think of the positives of, do you know the context of all these things either happening within your organization, within your division, or if you're in transition, do you know the landscape, right, that's happening at that company? And again, power plays, backstabbing, tactics, manipulation, biased decisions, back channel communication. I think that all these things happen at some point, and the severity sometimes is warranted. Some people may think it's backstabbing, but other people might be calling a spade a spade. And sometimes you need to be real in order to, again, accurately depict things, right? We've all seen this in play. And that's the reason why we're porting it out, right? And when you're looking for that new job, or you're in your job looking to move up, when you're networking, these are some of the things that come to the forefront, right? Maybe not all of them, but you're starting to put together and piece together that picture, because you're looking for, who has those decisions, who has actually the power versus just being loud or complaining about items. And what I find most interesting about this is that you'll usually find pockets of opportunity. You'll actually find the need, right? And when you're trying to satisfy that with the company, with your experience, with your skills, that really helps. So a lot of conversations where like, oh, this is really terrible. I can't believe that. That's not really helpful. When you ask more questions about, well, we're 2% off our goal. You hear something like that and you're like, well, 2% is not that big. I mean, even for a large company, 2% is way better than 7%. So then how do you help? And when you do help, since 2% is not that far off, right? You could put the company back on track. And that may be sales, that may be efficiencies, that may be savings, right? But that's where I go, well, what's going on and who's making a play for it? Because at the end of the day, while this may seem negative, there's groups that you could be the leader, or at least that conduit that's, aligning folks, so that maybe a lot of this isn't happening, right? So, we need to be very aware. And I like this, kind of stat about, the disruptive impact. I think that the other side of being aware, and the reason why it's important, is to kind of tame some of these, right? And if you're also seen as the person that's helping just the culture and environment, subside some of these, put some of these to rest, build some alignment, find out that people are arguing about the same thing but just using different words. I think you can provide a huge impact. And think about how many times we've had to break units apart just to realize that they were fighting about the same thing or forgetting what they were fighting about, right? There's so much energy exhausted. Point and focus that, build some clarity. An example of that could be, again, listing out the facts. What is the objective, right? And just literally putting on a board and saying, hey, your objective of, helping build efficiencies by integrating new software or new processes that's eliminating touches is the same thing as the other group saying, we're simplifying, our process and systems so that we're automating. I mean, like they literally sound the same, right? And they may have goals that, separately, they're like, well, how am I going to hit 8%? The other side's going, well, how am I going to hit 8%? It's like, well, if you work together, maybe that's only 4% apiece, right? So again, finding those avenues and hopefully finding those examples. And the other cool thing about this too is that, when you find like individuals that are trying to put this to rest and subside these again, you're actually finding the people that will help you cover your six because they don't like this either, right? They're focused on trying to get things done. But one voice is only as powerful as how loud you can be. Multiple voices, when they come into play, even if it's just two, has a lot of power behind it. All right. So I mean, there's obviously the fact that you don't have to do anything or you can ignore it, right? But we all know that it's not going to go away. In fact, the more you ignore it, the more others may feel like they have a voice, right? And their voice is the only one being heard. Is the only one being heard, there really is no counter argument or someone bringing some sensibility to the conversations, bringing some sensibility to decisions, bringing sensibility to some of the investments that the company is making, right? So be that voice, be that North Star. And again, here's kind of the rally point, and I'm not going to go through all these, but here's the positive side of it, right? If you're able to understand, what's happening, and what folks are doing, right, to make the company better, right? Yeah, I mean, likely you'll put a target on your back because it's really easy for folks not to like things and have no evidence of why, right? Um, but leaders will love you because they're thinking the same thing and say, man, I've been saying this forever and I've been the only one voicing it. Now that I've got one other person, that will embolden them to latch on. Or, again, especially if it's an executive, they'll be like, hey, I'm going to pull this person up because I need folks on my team that are winners, right? That aren't just going to complain about items. And yes, I understand that that may put a target on your back, but I'm going to insulate you by giving you resources, by giving you direction. And ultimately, when folks see the success, they'll have no other alternative but to try to find out how to win as well, right? And then, foster that, right? Um, some examples of this is fostering cross-departmental relationships and projects, right? A lot of times companies build great things in silos, but they never cross, right? So a lot of sales projects, a lot of marketing, they go, well, what's this product, right? And they go, I'll sell the heck out of that. And then you realize, well, there's another product, and that's a big chunk or division of the company. Well, why don't you sell that? Right? Same thing with account management and relationship management, a lot of the retention of business, right? Those key pieces, right, cross-functionally are stronger served as a bundle, as a company core competency, and really the value of the company, right? And a lot of times you can charge more because it's delivering exponential value to your customers. They're really using a lot of things. And oh, by the way, your company invested in something in the past, right? So, you're not having to build something new. You're looking at new combinations of which and connecting the dots, right? Another example is connecting with key decision makers and securing resources for critical projects, right? That sounds simple, but there's so many projects and there's so many, folks fighting for those resources. But if you can be a person that really aligns, really, again, either we're trying to hit a growth metric or we have a really big customer that's asking us to do blank, right? Then align a lot of those items that are backlogged or a lot of those items that are requested in your quest management system and say, we can't do 8, 9, and 6, but we can definitely do 1, 5, 23, and 36, right? These all support, and oh, by the way, it doesn't help just that one customer, it helps multiple, right? Um, and another cool way or example that I've seen, for kind of leading the way in politics is become a key expert, right? Yourself. And go to conferences and meet with other customers and bring back that information, right? And what it does is it kind of takes the pressure off of who's doing better than who and who needs to subside. You really put the attention on competition. Well, who are we really competing against, right? Are we really trying to grow the pie or just, take our slice? So it's important that, you've done, essentially the reconnaissance before. You've done the evaluation of the landscape. You can tell folks, what's going on, what the competition's doing. And because of that, that usually takes that internal focus and turns that externally, right? And people love it because it's one of the hardest things to do from a company standpoint is to remain outwardly focused. And then what you'll do is you'll find few folks again that maybe do it, but you'll be able to latch onto those folks, right? And again, kind of create that cohort. And then just sharing new advancements and providing insights. I mean, one of the best ways to break down on this is to be transparent. Because again, if you're really fighting for work to do, then that's just an interesting state to be in. Oftentimes you find yourself in the opposite, right? There's too much work to do and not enough people wanting to do it. And if you're the one, again, sharing new advancements, sharing trends, and you're providing the values to others, then they're not going to want to take pop shots at you because they're going to want your value. And that's just, again, just hands down a good way of doing that. So, really, from a set the example standpoint, and I always tell this to folks in the workplace, especially managers and executives that haven't worked with a lot of veterans or are interested, is the fact that we bring a lot of value because we've had to set the example. The responsibility were in our hands just from the get-go from our service, right? So again, set the example by kind of following these simple strategies. Again, I really like this slide because it kind of puts it in simple terms, right? And again, you can read these for yourselves, but I want to point out focus completely on the work goals versus individual like flavor and so forth. Folks will have their own spin on stuff. Don't get wrapped around that. I've always said that if you focus on the mission, just like in the military, it really brings folks together. And it wasn't just, the unit that I was with or commanding or so forth. It was something that brought together adjacent units, international and global teams, contractors, other host nation support, and so forth. So again, I'm pretty adamant about that. And don't forget that you've done it too in a lot of levels. So here's some takeaways. I do want to emphasize two of them. Build your social network because again, circling back to covering your six, you'll find out who your supporters and who you are. And sometimes they may not be apparent. They may look like they have your six, but not. And be willing to take that chance. That's the reason why I point this one out is again, it's kind of a law of numbers, a law of volume that if you don't put yourself out there, then you won't have anybody. But if you do it, and you do find those interesting people, it's because you put forth the effort, right? Um, and then the bottom one, the neutralize negative politics. Again, it's harder to do, and it's definitely things that I've shied away in the past, right? In certain circumstances. But what I find myself doing most of the time is just saying, no, I mean, I'm just stopping somebody from a negative comment or looking like they're going to be biased towards someone and standing up because the opposite, it doesn't really matter who, right? And I'm not bashing the person for saying it. Sometimes it's just the way they're speaking or so forth. And I'll turn it into an example is, I don't think that really person or that group is looking to undermine anybody. I think they're working pretty hard. In fact, in lieu of what they're trying to do, is there a way that we can support or help them? And maybe they need our opinions and guidance to make sure that they're on the right track and it doesn't sound so foreign to us, right? Or you may be hearing something about, oh, we never get enough resource and so forth, right? But again, we may be just in the business cycle where we have to hunker down, just like we were in the military, and say, with limited resources, what do we got? I mean, like, you're gonna have to do something, and you're not gonna burn time, right? So with the resources, the people, and the commitment that we can put towards it, what can we do? And MVPs, working models, or pilots, or betas are great. You don't have to solve everything, but make those incremental strides. And even a piece of that, don't try to be so grandiose. If you offer up something that was better than yesterday, that's key. Because when you start doing that repetitively, that's how you take that one bite of the elephant and then finish it whole. All right. So with that, again, in closing, I hope this motivates you to get into the fray like the leader that you are, to build those relationships so folks, feel like you can defend against foes, but at the same time build those alliances and really be working towards it and not get distracted or lose time with that. And, this is a topic that continues to get brought up either directly or indirectly. So again, always keep the discussion comments coming to us, keep these topics, and we're always going to try to get this veteran value in front of you here at Eagle Group.